Hey Spider Nation, welcome back to another episode of Spider-Man's Tangled WebShow. I'm Jonathan, and tonight I'm being joined by James. What's going on, James?
Not much. Just having a relaxing night. I had 2 days off of work, and I got to work Saturday night. But then Sunday night, I'm also off because I'm going to WWE Fastlane live on pay-per-view. So that's gonna be awesome. Besides that, not much. Just been relaxing at home. Watching some TV. Playing some video games. Like got playing some old Super Nintendo games just for the fun of it. Just had a really nice, relaxing 2 days off from work.
All right. We do know, we apologize. We've not done a show in like 3 weeks. Well, the first week I was incredibly busy, and the last week I was also incredibly busy because I
And
last
then one of those weeks, we were like literally the day of doing the show, and it was during a big storms. Obviously, people in the Midwest, you would know that there were like tornadoes and bad weather, snow, tornadoes, pretty much the day after tomorrow. Yeah, my internet got knocked out, and literally, I did not get my internet back until like 1 o'clock in the morning the next day.
Yeah, and that was also kind of like weirdish timing because the thing was last weekend I wrote 3 papers for school within 48 hours, and I just had a heck of a lot of homework and I was exhausted, so I was like, you know what? I don't really feel like doing a
Talking
podcast.
about clones,
I
my
don't.
head's already scrambled as nothing as can. I don't want to try to explain what the shit's going on with clones.
Yeah, it's like I'm kind of exhausted, so I'm not really in the mood for a podcast this week. So we apologize. We've not done a show in like 3 weeks, but maybe it's for the best because now we can just wrap up Clone Conspiracy in one swoop and we don't have to review 3 separate issues in 3 weeks.
It's like kind of like how would you rather want to like you're in your kid and it's like broccoli or grits or liver or insert food you don't like but you got to finish it and eat it, kind of thing. Uh, it's like how would you rather do you want to take little bites that makes you eat the thing longer or do you just want to all shove it in your mouth at once and get it over with? That's pretty much what we're doing right now.
So that is like it's a curse, but it's also a blessing. It's like you don't get to see our beautiful faces for 3 weeks, but we get to get through this material a lot
And
more efficiently.
and I get 3 weeks to like space myself, read this book, because it's pretty big, space myself between all these books, and then read good shit that I'm actually enjoying right now.
Okay, but before we can actually get to Clone Conspiracy, we actually have some news to discuss because there's a bit of, well, actually, it's news that's like 2 3 weeks old at some parts of it, but also like there's some more recent stuff.
But
But
but again, because like we said, like as the weeks went on, like you said, there's more reasons that we can add on to it. It's not like if we would then we like, hey, this thing's happening. How do you feel about it? I don't know yet. Like we had actually a couple weeks like to get our opinions, and see what's going on right now with it and more details, and what stuff like that.
the first piece of news is that Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, the satellite title is coming back, and it's coming back starting in June with a new number 1. The writer is Chip Zdarsky.
Yeah,
I
I think that's how it's pronounced.
I
I think
don't know how to pronounce that. I'm
that's how I
sorry.
pronounce it.
Zdarsky. Can we just go with that? I'm sorry if I'm getting that wrong. But we got pencils by Adam Kubert, which I'm very happy about because that I love me some Adam Kubert art. So that's some good stuff in there. And basically, the premise of this book is that it's classic Spider-Man. It's like Dan Slott and Amazing Spider-Man are going to deal with the more out there slot Spider-Man stuff, if we want to call it that, quote unquote.
The spot.
While Spectacular is going to tackle Spider-Man back in New York with the classic supporting cast, having adventures that will actually affect Amazing Spider-Man, and Amazing Spider-Man will affect Spectacular, vice versa and stuff. But it's basically just classic Spider-Man again. And so we've got Amazing in one corner, Spectacular in another, and then in over in another universe, you've got Renew Your Vows, which has Peter and Mary Jane and Annie as their family. And so James,
If you want the minority, story, and I know I'm not trying to sound racist, but if you want like the minority, like teenage Peter Parker, you're gonna have probably the Miles book, and if you want clones, you're gonna get the Ben Riley book, and you're gonna want a futuristic dystopian future, you're gonna have 2099. So it's kind of weird how they're like, we're giving you everything, take it, just make Spider-Man sell again.
yeah, that's a good segue into what I was going to ask, James. Is like, Now we're getting a classic Spider-Man book. We have Renew Your Vows. We have the Miles Morales book. We have all of this stuff. We've been openly critical of Dan Slott's run on this show. And so now we have more alternatives now than we have in a long time. And so my question to you, James, are you excited for Spectacular Spider-Man coming back?
I don't know, John. Does this answer it? Swinging on a web, fighting crime, spinning web. Not going to sing the rest of the song because I don't want YouTube to take off our heads. But that's a Spectacular Spider-Man theme song if people don't know. Yeah, I'm excited because I like Spectacular. Like from back issues and shit like that, I read it was kind of past me, like the original run. Like I think when I picked up the book, it was finishing up the second volume, but the original run from the 70s was already over. But going back issues, like Spectacular in the way it sounds, it's going back to the way satellite titles used to be with Spider-Man, where it was like shit mattered. It was kind of like it was almost like the book that got you ready for Amazing. Like it seemed like everybody who was like from writer to artist editor, it's like we'll give you a run for like a year on Spectacular, and then we'll move you up to the main book, and that's how you ended up with great runs with Conway's second run,
Roger Stern got his start.
Stern, yeah, I'm trying to think of the name because Stern got his start. He started the Hobgoblin mystery there by having introducing Kingsley and the Belladonna storyline and all that stuff. He started that there. Michelini started it there. That's
James
Venom was originally going to be in that book. Yeah, I think. What?
Did J.M.D. Mateus start on Spectacular or?
Yeah, J.M.D. Mateus did because he did the Death of Harry. Remember, he had the big run with Buscema.
Yeah, I know, but was that before? That was after Kraven's Last Hunt.
I think that was during Kraven's Last Hunt because I think he pitched it as a Spectacular storyline. And they said, "This is so good, we're going to put it in all the books because Grimdark is big right now."
Yeah, but it's like J.M.D. Mateus had some of his most famous stuff in Spectacular, and
I would argue he did. Child Within's really good. The Tombstone stuff's really good. What About Carry On's really good. The Death of Harry is really good. He did a lot of really good stuff. The whole Harry Osborn arc that everybody thinks of when they think, well, Harry is a goblin is pretty much his Spectacular run on the book. I'm really excited about this because Spectacular. Most of the relationship development with him and Black Cat was Spectacular.
Pretty much all of it was. Like, pretty much all of it.
Roger Stern allowed the Hobgoblin mystery to get added up with the whole issue re-reviewed with, the levers and all that stuff. That was all in Spectacular. You know what I mean, though? Like, it wasn't like nowadays where it's like Avenging and Friendly Neighborhood, how unless it was a tie-in to Amazing in a major arc or something like that, like, it felt like, who remembers the goddamn Spider-Man of 3000 or what the fuck that was during Friendly Neighborhood? And look at all the stuff that, Peter David did during Friendly Neighborhood compared to what he did in his Spectacular run with the Death of Gene DeWolf and all that stuff. It's almost night and day because of different things. And this sounds like it's going back to the way it used to be with Spectacular. It's going back to the original title. It's probably going to get renumbered. We'll talk about that later. And it's the way it used to be, how stuff here affects Amazing, and Amazing affects us. It's one big spider world. It's different storylines, it's different writers, it's different artists, it's different editors. But if we do something, Slott can't just go, oh, it's not my Spider-Man. You know what I mean, though? It can't go like, oh, that's not my Spider-Man. It affects his book. And if he does something, that affects our books. And I like that. But at the same time, like you said, it's almost like, Dan, we're not taking you off the book because you're writing Amazing and you're our guy, you're our buddy, But you're going to be over there with Amazing. Continue what you're doing over there. And now for the people who don't like your run but still want to read 616 in continuity in this timeline right now as we speak, here you go. Here's Spectacular Spider-Man. Hey, remember Spectacular Spider-Man? Look, we went back to the original name. It's not just Spectacular. It's Peter Parker with the original logo and everything. Come, here's your book. We're even going to do what Spectacular did in the early years. We're like, remember how Mary Jane was the girlfriend in Amazing, but then here in Spectacular we had Sissy Ironwood? We're kind of doing that again. Look. And I like that. They're like trying to, reach out. It's clearly like similar to what DC did with Rebirth. Like, we're giving you your Superman and we're giving you this again. It's clearly Marvel doing that with Spider-Man, but I like it, though, because it's like you're finally listening to the fans again, it feels like.
And that is kind of a segue into our next topic, which is, here's the thing. Nothing about this has been confirmed yet, but James should probably take the lead on this because he's more in, like, the internet circle. Like,
Well, I don't think I'm in the internet circle. It's most like I'll go on Ranger Board to see stuff, and like Ranger will relate to you. This is what's going on in CBR. This is what's going on with Newsarama. Oh, it turns out this book isn't getting canceled and it's getting a new #1. Oh, this indie book is starting with this writer. You know what I mean? Like I get I go on Ranger Board and like it links me to everything. And like if it's something that's interesting and is Spider-Man related, I will give it to John.
And basically, Marvel is going to do yet another relaunch after their massive Secret Empire event that's going to start next month. And it's going to go back to a more classic feel for Marvel. It's like James mentioned DC Rebirth, and I don't think that was a coincidence on his part because
it's Marvel Rebirth.
Yeah, basically.
They just can't call it.
Like, it's Marvel Rebirth. We are getting, I know this isn't completely confined to Spider-Man topics, but we're discussing it in the Spider-Man context because Spectacular Spider-Man appears to fit into that mold a little bit.
It's clearly that they're like, we want to do this, but we're not going to take Slott off Amazing. But Slott's run of Amazing fits with the old regime. It doesn't fit with the new regime. So Spectacular is the Marvel Rebirth, the Marvel Make Mine Marvel Now book. While Amazing just Slott continue what he's doing. It's like Claremont back with the X-Men. He's going to continue doing his thing, and here's the Spider-Man title.
And so the other part of this is that all of the books are going to return to their original quote-unquote legacy numbering. So Amazing Spider-Man will get a number somewhere in the 700s. The thing is, we don't know what that number will be because we don't know, is Superior Spider-Man included in that? Do we count what do we count in this?
Just the wording from the leak is very vague, like I told John. It just said it's counting everything in the numbering. Well, does that mean that Avengers is going to count all new, all different, new Avengers, Dark Avengers, West Coast Avengers? Are they all going to be counted? Is Amazing... Because obviously Amazing's not going to count Spectacular in the numbering because you're bringing back Spectacular. But does that mean Spectacular? It's like, hey, our first arc's over. Issue 300. You know what I mean, though? It's like, are they going to go back to Spectacular's old numbering now? What about this book where it's a relaunch, but it's technically a retitle with another series? Is that series now counted with that? It's really, in flux. You know what I mean?
It's like, it's good. With Amazing Spider-Man, it's either going to be number 740 something or number 770 something, probably.
I think I did the math, and it's like, if they did it today, because I'm not going to count, because we don't know when this renumbering is going to happen. So I just said, if it happens today, Amazing and Spectacular is starting its run. Amazing would be like 774 if you count Spectacular. I mean, if you count Superior. But it would be 743 if you didn't. And for Spectacular, if they counted and they got their renumbering, they're like 290.
I think you have to count Superior, though, because it's like, that was
the Amazing Spider-Man book.
Yeah, so it's like, I feel like you have to count Superior, but who knows?
But then again, it's a different title. Because if you count Superior, but then you don't count like the original run of New Avengers, it's going to be weird. It's like, what's the difference? If it's the same thing, it's like New Avengers took over the Avenger title for a while.
Well, I mean, like, here's the thing. Didn't Fantastic Four do something like exactly the same with Future Foundation a couple of years ago? Where
that's the reason. Would you count that with that because they did that, or would you not count it because Marvel didn't do that with New Avengers? Because New Avengers is the same thing like Superior. It was the same creative team just going over to a new title name. It was Bendis and David Finch. They just flipped over to the next book, the next month.
So we don't know what's going to happen, but basically...
I think Venom's the first book that's been confirmed with the renumbering.
Yeah, it's like, the thing of it is, again, this is not official. We should stress that. We've not had like an official press release about this. It's not been confirmed, but...
We know that they're rebooting or, relaunching, but the renumbering thing has just been like a leak from a convention.
Yeah, it's like, and so we don't know for sure, but we thought it was something interesting that we could mention. But basically, yeah, Marvel Rebirth. I'm down for that. Like, if that happens, I'm hoping it does. I'm down for Marvel Rebirth. But
it sounds like finally Marvel, because you gotta say, like, I don't know if John checks out the sales figures, but like you do. It's like you're lucky if in the top 20 there's one Marvel title.
Yeah, and they're like,
and that's not counting like Star Wars or licensed stuff. You know what I mean? I mean like actual Marvel books, like Spider-Man. Avengers,
like Clone Conspiracy.
Yeah.
All right, but that's basically all the news. We just wanted to hit that stuff up real quick that we thought that was important to our conversation. Now, we're going to turn to the Clone Conspiracy reviews, but we're going to do it a little bit weird, a little differently, because we're not going to hit each individual issue by itself, because, one, this Clone Conspiracy Omega issue has 3 different stories in it. And the thing of it is, it's basically there's 2 stories within these 3 issues just spread out. And so what we're going to do is we're going to jump around a little bit. We're actually going to split this into 2 sections. What I'm going to do is I'm going to recap Clone Conspiracy number 5. We'll recap that in full, but we'll also recap just with it in the same slot. We'll recap the Collateral Damage and King's Favor stories of Clone Conspiracy Omega number 1. Because it's basically the same it's just the same story continued. This picks up like 5 minutes after Clone Conspiracy 5. And then James, after we recap and review that, James will recap Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4 24 and the Give Us a Wink story in Clone Conspiracy Omega, which is basically Scarlet Spider number 0. So we thought it would be good to kind of compartmentalize it that way. Just one story or one section is basically from Peter's perspective, and then the other section is the Ben Reilly stuff. And,
which, I told John, it's kind of like back to basics with the Clone Saga, because you'll have here's a backup story in Webba, but the main story is not going to happen until Amazing. You know what I mean? Or here's what's going on with Ben, but if you want to see the full story, you got to see, it's Sensational. It kind of feels like that, where it's like, okay, the backup for this ties into issue 24, which ties into his book, and then this and this and this, it ties into Amazing 25.
All right, but we'll start with Clone Conspiracy 5. Creative team, Dan Slott, writer, Jim Chung, penciler, John Dell, Jay Leaston, and Jim Chung, inkers. Justin Ponser, color artist, VC's Joe Caramagna. On letters, Gabriel Delato is the cover artist. Assistant editor, Allison Stock. Associate editor, Devin Lewis. Editor, Nick Lowe. Basically, the issue begins right where issue 4 left off. The frequency, the high-pitched screeching, is being sent out all around the world. It's causing all of the new U clone bodies to break down and release the carrion virus, as they are all contagious. And so it's infecting the entire human population, and Ben Reilly is basically going to wipe out the entire human population on planet Earth and rebirth them all with clones, with his own new U clones. And Peter's like, okay, this is not good. I kind of have to stop this. So Peter he sets out to find Ben Reilly where he's hiding. He finds Gwen and her father decaying in the yard, and so he asks Gwen, "Hey, can you lead me to where Ben is, where he's hiding?" So she takes him there. Ben is fighting Kane and Spider-Gwen, and he actually manages to he manages to throw Kane out a window, causing Spider-Gwen to go after him. He tells the female Electro to go take them out. Spider-Man and Gwen they get to Ben's lair. Gwen basically separates herself from Peter. Peter is trying to ask her to help him and stuff like that. But Gwen decides that she needs to, hold off the bad guys that are chasing them so that Peter can go deal with Ben. Gwen is actually killed by the Green Goblin by one of his pumpkin bombs again, which is, of course, throwback to 121. The Goblin kills Gwen. Peter shows up in Ben's lair where he's fighting Dr. Octopus, and Anna Maria is working on the inverse frequency that will help stabilize all the carrion viruses and prevent this outbreak from reaching all of mankind. Peter joins Doc Ock in the fight against Ben. He basically says, "Ben, you're not my brother. You're just another lunatic. You've completely lost it. You are not Ben Reilly. Go to hell," basically. And so Ben and Ock keep fighting. Anna Maria finishes the inverse frequency, and so Peter takes her up to the remote fact channel station where Jonah had been giving his broadcasts. They find Silk up there because, why not? She's a Dan Slott character. We see Marla Jameson decay, and Jonah says to Spider-Man, "I beg you, don't tell him. Don't tell Parker. He was right." And Peter explains that he knows that he can't use the fact channel's equipment to broadcast the signal. He brought them up there because he knew the shielding around the fact channel facility was where it would be the weakest, so that he hacks into these webware devices of every webware device on Earth. He hacks into it and sends the inverse frequency out worldwide, so that everyone who's wearing a webware will have the signal sent out, so they'll hear it and everyone around them will hear it, so that everyone else's cells will be stabilized. Doc Ock destroys Ben's webware, which supposedly causes the two to melt, but obviously it doesn't. We'll get to that later. Peter goes to investigate. He finds Ben's Anubis mask on the ground, and they find Ock's arms. Obviously, they have not melted away. Again, we'll get to that later. Peter and Anna Maria go back outside to just survey the damage, see what's been done. They find that some of the villains got away, some of them melted down, and others, it's just most of the supporting cast members that were brought back didn't make it and stuff like that. And then Dr. Rita Clarkson, who was Ben's basically right-hand woman during the thing, informed Spider-Man that all of the original New You patients were actually kept in a frozen storage facility beneath the ground, and some of them are actually still alive. And so Peter and Anna Maria and Kane and Gwen go down there. They find that Hobie Brown is still alive, so that character's not dead. And also Jerry Salters, the original man that Peter used New You on way back like 6 months ago in Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, number 16. He's alive, and Peter says that he's going to get them. He says, I promised I'd bring you home, that you'd be okay, but now I have to keep as much of that promise as I can. And Jerry says, I understand, do what you can, you're only human. And that is the end of Clone Conspiracy number 5. Excuse me, I just need some water. For anyone who's ever had canker sores in their mouth, I literally have, I have 2 on my tongue, 2 here, and 1 on the side. And so my mouth is drying out really quickly. I apologize.
Wow. John, where did you get those canker sores from? College boy.
No, James, I unfortunately am not that lucky. But
sure. Right. Well, we'll go with that. Wink.
But moving on to Clone Conspiracy Omega, the collateral damage story, we got Dan Slott and Christos Gage, writers, Corey T. Smith as the artist, Justin Ponser as the color artist. And we also got VC's Joe Caramagna on letters, James Herron on the cover artist, assistant editor Allison Stock, associate editor Devin Lewis, editor Nick Lowe. And this right here is basically the epilogue to Clone Conspiracy number 5. Picks up right where it left off. Rhino is mourning Oksana, his late wife. We see Peter and all of them go down to the basement again. Peter calls Jerry Salter's wife Emma, and he basically informs her that Jerry's still alive, but he's gonna die again. Sorry. And Emma has the reaction that she should have of are you telling...
From somebody just going to her the way you make it sound like Peter going, hey, guess what? Your husband's still alive, but he's going to be dead again. Sorry.
But...
it's the most condescending jerk way you can make it sound.
I know, I'm sorry. But, Peter's much more compassionate than that in his actual... when he actually speaks to her. But she freaks out. She's like, you mean you brought my Jerry back just so that he could die again? Are you kidding me? And so she's like, I'm going to sue Parker Industries for everything it's worth. And
I'm going to... Okay, I'll bring this up later when I give my review, but I just do not get that. I'm going to sue you because my husband tried some experimental treatment that was okay, granted, Peter said, "Hey, we'll try it," but that doesn't make his company at fault. The fact that the guy ended up being a mad scientist.
So Peter is like basically wallowing in self-loathing. He's thinking that this is all his fault, and Anna Maria is like, "Shut up! This is not all your fault. Quit it with the narcissism." And they basically all agree that everyone took a hit in this, and everyone's been hurt, everyone's in pain, and then Peter basically just goes off on Kane, where he's like, if you'd actually told me about some of this crap, we could have stopped this before it ever started, blah, 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 blah. And then S.H.I.E.L.D. comes in to take everyone into custody to make sure that they're not contagious or anything like that. Kurt Connors gets away with his family, which they have not yet decayed or broken down or anything. The S.H.I.E.L.D. agents wonder if they should bring in the Rhino, and basically Peter's like, yeah, moving the Rhino right now is probably a bad idea because he's like in mourning and like he's really in pain right now. I'd suggest not pissing him off at this very moment. I feel like that's not going to end well for any of us. Like, I'm just using this little thing called common sense. And then Peter sees Silk and Jonah Jameson, and he asks her to look after Jonah because of what Jonah's been through and everything. Peter basically gets into another verbal fight with Kane and Spider-Gwen, basically where he says, yeah, you both can go to hell and stay there. And then Kane goes back and surveys the remains of supposedly Ben Reilly. What are you laughing at?
Just like what the Kane scene here is, because they're like, bye, I'm going back to the 90s where I'm the anti-hero asshole. Bye.
Well, thanks. You basically just summed that page up for me, so thank you, James. You made my job a lot easier. And then Peter goes to the room where they're holding Uncle Ben's body, like Uncle Ben's coffin, and he takes his mask off and he gets on his knees and he's like, Uncle Ben, I know it would have been wrong to let him clone you, but man, do I wish you were here right now. And then Peter hears the Rhino going berserk outside because the dumbass S.H.I.E.L.D. agents didn't listen to him and they tried to take him into custody. And so the Rhino's going berserk, and Peter's like, for Christ's sake, I told him this would happen. So Rhino's like, I don't want to leave Oksana. Don't move me or I'll destroy you. And Peter's like, listen, Rhino, I know you're hurting. Everyone's hurting. We've all lost people. And Rhino's like, it doesn't matter. Without her, I have less than nothing. And so Peter tries to calm him down. He's like, you take her with you. She's not gone as long as you still remember her and all that stuff. And Rhino just like falls to his knees in tears, just breaks down. It's like I'll bring this up in my review as well. It's like Rhino's reaction to this is like probably the most well written thing of this entire event, because it's like can anyone really blame Rhino for what he's doing right now? Like, for losing his shit, basically. It's like the guy's just lost his wife again. Like that. Like, can you really blame him?
And it's a nice, like, going full circle for both him and Peter.
And so they go to Horizon University. They find that, everyone's fine. Nobody's contagious. They take Rhino away, and Rhino promises to just move forward and try to do right by Oksana. And then the story ends with Kurt Connors. The story ends with Kurt Connors having turned his family into a family of lizards. Yeah, that's not going to end badly for anybody. It's like, oh man, James, where have we seen this before? When is this ever turned badly for Kurt Connors? Oh wait.
Here's the thing. He always said he wanted to turn them into lizards. This is him actually doing it, and then they're dead. The zombie versions of his family have been turned into lizards, and he's the one who ate them.
And then finally, the King's Favor story, Dan Slott writer, Stuart Immonen penciler, Wade von Graubacher as the inker, Richard Eisenove as a color artist, and we already went over the same letter editors and stuff like that. This is basically a prologue to Amazing Spider-Man number 25, where basically the Kingpin calls Spider-Man to this little shady bar in San Francisco, and Peter's in a bad mood because of the end of Clone Conspiracy. Basically, the summary of the story is Peter needs to punch somebody. Kingpin owes Spider-Man a favor for taking down the Jackal, so Kingpin gives Spider-Man a jump drive containing all the information on Norman Osborn's current whereabouts and everything he's been doing. And Spider-Man's like, I need to hit somebody. Osborn sounds like a good choice. Thanks, Kingpin. Bye.
Doesn't it make Spider-Man sound like a dick? Okay, it's Norman Osborn, but it's like, I had a bad day. I'm gonna fuck somebody up.
Like, that is honestly, like, what this is. It's like...
It's what abusers use as excuses for why they abuse their loved ones. Of, I had a really bad day.
Yeah, but Norman Osborn actually has it coming to him. So, you know what? I do not endorse abusing people, by the way. I do not endorse abusing people. That is a bad thing to do. But that is basically Peter's half of the end of Clone Conspiracy in a nutshell. We got it all recapped in. So, James, I've done a lot of the talking for the last 10 or so minutes, so I'll give you some airtime. What did you think of all of this stuff? What did you think?
The final issue, it felt rushed. It felt very much like, we gotta get this whole thing over with, which is weird because you had issue 24, that's kind of an epilogue also, we'll get to that, and then you have, Omega, which is another big epilogue. So the main storyline, it felt like kind of like the Clone Saga. It's like, we're rushing the ending, but we still got 2 more things to go. Bye. You know what I mean? Like, I think their exact quote from Marvel was, when they were asked about this, the editors were like, well, there was just so much, we couldn't fit it into one ending, so we had to prolong it with 2 more books. You do realize that's the editors of the Marvel back during the original Clone Saga talking, well, there's just so much stuff going on, we can't end it right here, we gotta have it go on for a few more months. And then a few more months after that. This is what it sounded like. It was hilarious. But the main storyline, I'm just not a fan. The ending, it's like, oh my god, are they all dead? And we know for a fact, Slott did not bring back Doc Ock after Superior Spider-Man and all this shit just to have him die again at the end of this arc, people. He did not, bring back Ben Reilly when we know there's a new #1 of Scarlet Spider starring him. We know he's not dead. It's like really anticlimactic. The only death, it's like, oh my god, Gwen's dead. And it's like, oh, yay, she died in 1973. What else is new? Gwen died. Yeah, moving on. It's a clone of Gwen. I don't give a shit. And yeah, so, yeah, the main issue, it was just very rushed finish. It was just like, we gotta make sure we get everything done. Oh, here's Hobby Brown. He's alive for his book. Bye. Okay, this thing happened. Okay, bye. Okay, this is happening. Okay, Peter, and the webware is now destroyed, so now nobody can use webware. Bye. It's setting up the fall Parker industry. Fuck you. You know what I mean, though? It's like, it'd be like if Apple had a problem with, like, the next generation of iWatch, and it's like, well, our whole company's going out of business now. You can't just, you made it once before. You can't just remake the technology, Peter. Nope, it's all going bye-bye because the company's going to go out after the next arc. But yeah, that's my opinion of the final issue of the main, miniseries. It was weird. As for, Omega crap.
Oh, jeez.
The Rhino stuff is good. I will admit that, because he's going for pain and loss, and I like it too. How he sees kind of like the ghosts, the memories of her, and while Peter's talking, he sees the ghost of Gwen again, because it won't be a Clone Saga epilogue if he didn't see the ghost of Gwen Stacy. But yeah, you see that stuff going on, and I like the Rhino stuff. Because if you read that storyline when it happened in Brand New Day with Rhino stuff, it was really good, because it was like it was like two or three one-shots, and they all tied in together. I think the cover was even cool. Like each one was like the Rhino breaking through into the final part, but they were spread out by a couple of months. And you had the 1 month where it's like it introduces her. The second month he actually teams up with Spider-Man because of her. And then the third month she dies and he returns to the life of crime. And then the ending's fucked with Peter. Peter's at the unemployment office. He's next. And the person goes, "Can I help you?" And he goes, "No, I don't deserve it." And he walks out because it's all his fault that Rhino's. It's all his fault that Rhino's, wife died. And because of that, he's not going to accept an unemployment check so he can actually pay his fucking bills. Because loser Peter Parker in Brand New Day era. But that's a different story for a different time. So it's kind of cool how you kind of get like the Peter Parker there at that time and the Rhino at that time, and the kind of going full circle as Peter's walking him through the morning. And it's almost kind of hypocritical if you think about it, because Peter is not preaching what he does kind of thing. He's like, no, they're a part of you. Don't let the guilt, take over you. They're a part of you. You're their legacy. They live on for you and the good deeds you do. Says the man who anytime it's a rainy day, it's all my fault in the Marvel Universe.
I was gonna say it's like he tells Rhino to just move forward and not live his life as Oksana would want him to, and then the moment
the
Rhino,
guy who has Gwen Stacy Forest Ghost number 7,000 since she died.
Well, I was gonna say it's like the moment Rhino walks out of the room. Okay, I'm gonna go meet the Kingpin so that he can show me someone that I can punch.
Why? Because the real Gwen Stacy died from him. But didn't you just tell Rhino, I don't care? I mean, I would just make out with the Gwen Stacy right over here, but she's like, what, 18? 17? I don't know. It's creepy. So I'm not going to make out with her. So I'm going to go dig up Gwen Stacy. You know what I mean? That's what it feels like, probably, with Peter Parker. He's like, no, she's a part of you. She's always going to be there. But the man who you become after she died, that's her legacy. That's how she lives on. Now I'm going to go cry to my Uncle Ben's coffin right now about how it's all my fault that he died 50 years ago. So yeah, they go down there, and it just so happens, all the bodies are the ones that, just happen to need to be there for their own titles. You know what I mean? And here, the other bullshit, with the lady crying and blaming Peter Parker and saying, I'm going to sue you. That would get anybody who works at Parker Industries would tell Peter, she has no case.
Literally none.
They gave her an option that even Peter admitted at the time he didn't know if it was going to work or not. She took it to save her husband's life, and he died later on from the after effects. That's not the company's fault. You still agreed to the surgery. And how was Peter supposed to know that it was run by an evil organization? Granted, it's the Marvel Universe, but still, in context, how do you blame a guy who literally just said, we tried a medical procedure, we didn't know it was run by an asshole. It didn't work, and he died. There is no case here. But no, we got to again have it all being Peter's fault, and he, cries about it. Then we get to the Kane stuff, which is literally just rebooting the factory setting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's literally all the character development that Kane's got to came back in whatever issue, like 600, whatever it was, in Amazing Spider-Man. Since he came back, is now completely flushed down the toilet as he's back to Mark Kane, scars on his face, a beard, long, greasy hair. Oh, I gotta hunt and kill Ben Reilly, because Ben Reilly's a dick. I hate Ben Reilly, so I'm gonna scan the whole earth for him, and then when I find him, I'm gonna kill him, and then my fingerprints are gonna end up on some dead cop's body, and it's gonna fuck over Peter, but I don't care because I'm also angry at him because he yelled at me. It's like, oh my god, he went for all this character development, and now he's back to being the 90s Kane. Thank you, Dan Slott. We really needed 90s Kane, who's always hiding in the shadows, stalking Ben Reilly. Thank you, we got that back. The character moved on from that, Dan. But no, we have to go back to, because Marvel, we gotta go back to the beginning. So yeah, I'm not a fan with that. The character had character development, and he's literally, at the end of this, is like, I'm going back to the 90s, bye. That's what he's saying. He's like, the Power Ranger movie is coming out. Ben Reilly's alive. Let's face it, guys. Full House is on fucking Netflix. We're back in the 90s. Bye.
DC Cinematic Universe just did the death of Superman, and they're going to bring him back in Justice League, so bye.
The 90s are... Literally, if Hillary would have won the election, we would have 100% back in the 90s with the Clintons back in offices. So bye. I'm going to go listen to Nirvana records. Bye.
Bye, 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 bye.
No, that's 1999. It doesn't count.
Damn it.
Actually, I think it was 2000. Or borderline that. I can't remember. So yeah, Kane, I just didn't like it because it was literally just them regressing him back to where he was, and I hate that in stories. It's like, we moved past this with the character. Now I gotta literally reread everything. And so that stuff, you got the Uncle Ben moment, which is okay, but it's I get it's a moment with Uncle Ben, but it felt very much like I need a minute, and then yet he's crying over Uncle Ben, and it felt kind of weird with the Rhino stuff. He's all like, move on with your life, but again, he's crying over Uncle Ben. It's like, it's kind of hypocritical if you ask me. Like, I honestly, if I was in the same position, I might do the same thing what Peter did, so I'm not going to deny that. Just reading a story-wise, it felt kind of where he's like telling one guy to do one thing, and he did the other. So yeah, you got that stuff going on. The Rhino stuff, it's really weird. He's all like, I'm going to kill myself. I slam myself into a wall. Since they're trying to take me away from my clone-degenerated wife. And then Peter's like I'm surprised Peter didn't tell him, how many times have you bashed for walls and not gotten in a single concussion? Every time? Why do you think this time's going to kill you? Shut up. Like, that's what it felt like. Shut up. But that reminds me, I still haven't forgiven you when I visited my first wife's tombstone, and you were crying little bitch over Captain America in your black suit, and you beat the shit out of me and slammed my head into my first wife's tombstone. Yeah, thanks for reminding me about that, Spider-Man, you dick. Never forget, Lost Fallen Son, or whatever the fuck that was called in Civil War. And then it ended with the Rhino stuff, which just made me go, ugh. I already mentioned why it's creepy to me. Like, I don't want to mention it. He ate his family, and now they're lizard people. And another continuity error, what that has always happened to kids in the Marvel books. You know how they always degress in age. Billy, which I guess you can explain away as the cloning process didn't get up to where he was when he died. But when he got killed and shed, he was like 13, 14. Why is he back in a high chair?
Because comics, like, literally, I wonder, like, it's probably just because he's just a supporting character, I guess. So,
and it also helps them with their whole illusion of people staying relatively the same age.
Yeah, probably.
So yeah, you got that, and then you got the whole Peter Kingpin thing, which is like, literally he just shows up, beats up all the Kingpin's, mafia, men, like it's fucking Grand Theft Auto. And he gets to the boss, and he's like, the boss mission now, where you go to the thing, you go to the little icon, you go there, and now it's like they're starting the mission. It's Grand Theft Spider.
All right, James. So given all of this, do you give this a thumbs up, sideways, down?
I give the main issue 3 thumbs down. I give the overall arc 2 thumbs down. And I give the Omega a thumbs down, but slightly kind of pointing up, because there is some things like the Rhino part I did actually enjoy.
Okay, I'm actually going to kind of counter James on this, because...
Oh, fuck you.
Here's the thing. I did not hate this. I thought there were some good moments in this final issue. For one, I like Gwen Stacy with her moment of, instead of going out as a helpless victim, I'm going out fighting to save the world. I like
But it's not Gwen Stacy. It's a clone number 5,000 for her.
Yeah, but I still liked it, James, so... Yeah.
I mean, look at this. They took a guy who a couple of years ago was one of the biggest defenders of the Clone Saga you'll ever meet, next to Zack Joyner. And now look at me. To the point that I'm pissed off, like, it's a clone, who cares? Look at how this book made me.
So I like that moment with Gwen. I'm trying to think of... It's hard to separate the issues here, so I'm trying to remember what was in what book. I thought it was just a decent final fight. Like, I thought there was good tension to it. I like Peter sending the signal out worldwide. I loved Gwen's moment of, like, every single person on Earth is counting on you, Peter. Don't let them down. In terms of Omega, I will say this. I agree with James on the Rhino stuff. The Rhino stuff is probably some of the best stuff of this entire arc. But here's the thing about it. Like, here's the thing about Omega that I don't hate. I don't blame Peter for being so pissed off and so, like, pipe up his ass. Because here's the thing. Everyone has had such a, like, it's been a bad day for Peter Parker. It's been a bad day. Probably a bad few weeks, probably. And he has seen stuff that he never wants to see, like this cloning stuff taken to a whole new level. He's had these intimate conversations with people he's lost, like that whole issue 23 with Gwen and everything. This guy who he once thought of as a brother just tried to kill every single person on the planet.
Oh, that's my other problem. Oh, you're not my brother. Yeah, you're right. He's clone number 27 of you, Peter.
It's like this guy just tried to kill every single person on the planet and replace them with clones. It's like he's seen all of this. He's seen the guy who stole his body for a year and a half come back alive. And it's like all of this stuff has happened. And Peter's just in a bad mood. And I can kind of understand that. Like, I understand why Peter's upset. And I also understand why he's so pissed off at Kane for not including him in this. Because he's like, are you seriously telling me that you screwed around with this knowledge of a global outbreak that you knew could happen and you knew I could stop, but you screwed around with it because of your own stupid paranoia? Are you telling me that?
Because Riley!
Like, I understand that Peter's pissed about that. Like, I understand that. I like the moment with Peter going to Uncle Ben's coffin and stuff. Again, I like the Rhino stuff. I honestly, here was the thing about the final moment with the Kingpin. I mentioned way back in Clone Conspiracy 3 that I loved that moment where Kingpin says, Spider-Man, you owe me a favor, and Spider-Man just says, bitch, please, you owe me a favor. And I love that Kingpin's actually following through on that, and he took Spider-Man seriously. And Spider-Man's just like, I'm gonna go punch Osborn in the face right now.
Well, just remember, Spider-Man, I am a mob boss. I mean, nobody wants to make a deal with the devil, don't they? Oh, please, I've been for the actual devil. I can handle you, Kingpin.
And plus, Spider-Man also, just as a bit of a sidetrack, for anyone who's reading the current Charles Soule Daredevil run, there's an issue where Spider-Man confronts Daredevil. Hey, say, Daredevil, I feel like I know I used to know your secret identity, but now it's like I can't remember. It's like there's a mind block put in me, and I can't trust you anymore, Daredevil, because you took away my knowledge of your secret identity.
Remember issue 600 where Peter offered to demask himself to, Daredevil, and Daredevil said no, because the whole fact you went through that kind of trouble to put your mask back on, I can respect that, as somebody who's had his own identity bite him in the ass.
But I was just thinking, it's like I read that issue, and I'm just like, asshole, you just
did you read the issue after that where they made the reference to One More Day?
Yeah, I think I did as well. Yeah, I think.
Or somebody outright, when they were trying to name off how this could have happened with Daredevil, they go, well, it could have been Mephisto. He's known to do this.
Yeah, that does ring a bell with me. But getting back to Clone Conspiracy, it's just, I really like that final scene with the Kingpin. It's just like, he actually takes Spider-Man seriously, and I really enjoyed that. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to give this a thumbs up. I had fun with it. I enjoyed it. I thought there was some genuinely good stuff in here. And I'm excited for what's to come next with Norman Osborn and everything. I understood Peter's anger in this Clone Conspiracy Omega epilogue stuff. I thought it was genuine. I thought it was understandable. The finale of Clone Conspiracy, I'll admit, it was rushed, but I think in retrospect, in hindsight, now that I've read Omega with the epilogue, it doesn't feel like it doesn't take away from the book as much now that I've gotten an epilogue. So I think Omega retroactively helps this issue, and so overall, I think Clone Conspiracy ended on a fairly solid note. Now, that's Peter's half, though. Let's get to James's part, because, oh boy, this will be fun. Okay, James. I'll run through the creative teams for both stories real quick, and then I'll hand the floor over to you. First, Amazing Spider-Man, Volume 4, number 24. We got Dan Slott and Christos Gage, writers, Giuseppe Camuncoli, penciler, Cam Smith, inker, Jason Keith, colorist, VC's Joe Caramagna, letterer. cover artist Alex Ross, assistant editor Allison Stock, associate editor Devin Lewis, editor Nick Lowe, and then the Clone Conspiracy Omega story. We got Peter David, writer, Mark Bagley, penciler, John Dell, inker, Jason Keith, color artist, VC's Joe Caramagna, letterer, and then same editors, Allison Stock, Devin Lewis, Nick Lowe. So, James, go through ASM 24 first, and then go through the Clone Conspiracy Omega.
Well, that's what I was going to do, because it's kind of like part 1 and part 2.
Yeah, just go through that first. James, how is Peter David's Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider series, how is that going to be set up from now on?
With Doc Ock saying the die is cast, that's always a good sign, isn't it? Doc Ock saying his catchphrase from the 70s.
Yes, because Dan Slott, we always have to have that continuity reference in there.
And then, like, you have Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly call him out for it, like, and they say I'm crazy, because you are. And they say I'm crazy, and you're saying the die is cast. Well, you're the guy who's dressed up like a fucking Egyptian. Asshole. And he's all like, hey, duplicate, help me. Yeah, you're calling your henchmen. And then they start to fall to pieces, so of course he has to make a pun. Oh, useless. Soon as trouble happens, you guys always fall apart. Oh my god. This is not Ben Reilly. But of course, one of them don't fall apart, so that means he's the real Miles Warren. Yeah, right. And then he goes into the Jackal's costume room and picks out the 70s Jackal costume. And he has a Hamlet moment. To be a clone or not to be a clone? Fuck it, I'm going to go away. Smoky mirrors. And then so you got more of the shit that we saw. It's Anna Maria and the webwire and it all, breaking down on everybody and not working no more. And it's never going to work again. Blah, 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 blah. They're saving everybody's life. Pretty much what we already saw. You got more of, you could hurt Anna Maria. Fuck you. Otto. I'm an insane clone of a clone of Spider-Man. And you're acting really fucked up. Stop it. So yeah, that's going. And then you got, like, Ben escaping. He beats the shit out of Doc Ock because it's still Spider-Man beating the shit out of Doc Ock. I mean, it's going to end the same way it always ends. And then you get Ben Reilly trying to escape. And, this is the face of, a really awesome Ben Reilly that we all know and love, right?
James, he looks exactly like he did in the 90s. Don't you see, James? He's exactly how he was in the 70s, in the original Clone Saga, when he was evil because he fought Spider-Man, even though he thought he was the original, and Jackal just told him, hey, you have to fight that guy because he's the clone, and it's the only way to save Ned Leeds and whoever else was there. Don't you see, James? Dan Slott is brilliant.
And then Ben's doing this because he wants to put his body in another goddamn clone because this is Ben Reilly. And then he's going to transfer his brain into a clone, which makes Ock remember Superior Spider-Man, which he said he wasn't going to do, but now Ock's going to fuck it up because if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be him. So he attacks with Ben and the Spider Sense, and then Ben wakes up in an angry rage and screams, damn you, Octavius, that body was supposed to be mine! Because that's the way Ben Reilly talks. It's like, yeah, and then... And of course, right before... Get this! Okay, let's see Dan Slott's writing here. Let's dissect this one panel. Doc Ock takes out Ben Reilly, a 100%, other than his insanity right now, a 100% perfect clone of Peter Parker. He takes him out in one fucking hit, and what's the thought bubble he has, or the word speech bubble? This was inevitable. I am the true Peter Parker superior. So Slott once again has to point to Superior Spider-Man being so much more badass than Peter. The whole fact that he took out a segregate Peter Parker and said that that's why because I'm superior. Ah! So yeah, Akka got away, fuck it. And then he sees more clone dust, and so Ben takes pills so he can go back to normal, and has, again, crazy eyes because there's this fucking Ben Reilly. Oh, God. And then he does the same thing Ock did so he can get away too, and he crawls out of the building, he steals somebody's car and screams, "Why did you kill me? Why did you kill me?" Oh, wait a second, that's actually better Ben Reilly from the original Clone Saga, sorry. But no, Ben just comes, he takes some guy's car, so he's gonna basically break in the entrance inside Aunt May's old home.
No, this is a replica of Aunt May's old home.
Still, the point stands. He goes into the house, sees the real Miles Warren there, sits up with the Jackal. Miles Warren becomes, you know what? Me being a dick to Spider-Man all these years caused all this stuff with Ben Reilly. What's more, I'm going to burn down a clone of a house. Let's think that in, people. He's burning down a clone of Peter and Ben's childhood home. Smoke and mirrors. Shut up, Jackal. So they start a badass, I gotta admit, a pretty badass fight, and it's finally Ben, after all these years going to the 70s, finally getting the upper hand on Jackal. And what does he do? He burns him alive. Ben Reilly, who's just like Peter Parker and would never kill anybody. And everybody made that big deal about the first issue when it's revealed that Ben is the new Jackal. Well, Ben didn't kill anybody. See? Well, here it's pretty much left that he was willing to let, Jackal burn alive.
And here's the thing.
It's not him.
Yeah, it's a clone. It's like, Slott, are you seriously trying to convince me that the Jackal's dead? Are you seriously trying to convince me of that right now? Just like someone
pointed out, there's a way out of this Ben Reilly that some writer can perfectly do when Slott's finally gone from the books. This ain't the real Ben Reilly. This is yet another clone. The real clone of a clone of a clone is somewhere else.
You could say this easily.
Your retcon for all of this has always been what the retcon has always been for the Clone Saga. It's just a clone.
A clone that Miles Warren, he tampered with his brainwaves and made him crazy.
It made him think he's Ben Reilly, but he's not.
Yeah.
But yeah, the house burns down, and these firefighters just see a smiling guy who's like, "I finally killed him." And they're like, "So, is anyone else in there?" He goes, "Nosy ones." And then he beats the shit out of the firefighters, saying, "Anybody who likes to be a hero, I'm going to beat the shit out of you because I can no longer be a hero because Dan Slott fucked up my character." So he starts jumping, and then we see all the classic Ben Reilly, like a 70s dressed up Peter Parker, and then the long hair, lost year mullet he had, and then the blonde Ben Reilly, and we see his version of the spider suit that May Parker used in the Spider-Girl, the classic hoodie, and you see all these classic Ben Reilly shit that you wish you were reading.
And then, moving over to Clone Conspiracy Omega, oh boy with this story.
We see Rita again, she's at a bar, just having a drink, meeting a few guys, trying to get her head out of things, and then all of a sudden, a guy shows up in a Deadpool, shirt, and it turns out to be fucking Ben Reilly. Who, again, goes over this issue if you didn't fucking read it. Again, this, like all the ASM tie-ins to Clone Conspiracy, they all can be taken care of in a few panels. Well, you don't believe me? Well, Dan Slott and them all just prove your point here. Well, I think it's actually written by Peter David, but it's just him going off what Dan Slott gave him. Where he literally, once again, explains the whole thing that we read right here. All of this, all 24 pages, all done in 6 panels. So yeah, they start talking, and it's setting up his book. He needs money, and she doesn't know if she wants to help him, but then some shady dudes show up, and then they're gonna do some things to her, and so Ben Reilly fights them off with his spider powers. He looks really fucking creepy. And he's not, look at this, he just does not look like Ben Reilly. He beats the shit out of these guys, probably kills them because this is the new Ben Reilly.
Look at this Ben Reilly. Does that look like Ben Reilly to you?
No. Well, it does with the hairstyle, because the hairstyle I'll give it, because it's the way Bagley drew him in the 90s. But everything else is not Ben. So yeah, he helps the girl. She's all like, "Oh yeah, I'll do whatever you want. Here's the package you need with money." He all says, "I'm going to Broadway." She goes, "So New York? There's more than one Broadway. There's a clone of Broadway that I clone too. So I'm gonna go to clone Broadway." And then he leaves and he kisses her. I guess setting up the possibility maybe her coming back to being a love interest in his book, maybe, but probably not. Probably a clone of Janine's gonna show up, and then that's gonna be his love interest. And then, of course, we know. Guess what? These evil guys that was gonna kill her, all Ben's doing.
Yeah, it turns out he hired them to attack her because he knew that she would not give him money. So he hired them to attack her so that he could save her, so that she would trust him and give him money.
It's literally the thing that some guys do to get in girls' pants. The whole, if I have my friend act like a dick to this girl, and I come out and be the chivalrous guy who tells the asshole guy off, she'll fuck me tonight.
Does that sound like Ben Reilly to you, James?
No fucking way in hell.
So, James, I'm going to let you go first again because you are the one who cares more about Ben Reilly than I do. Oh boy, what'd you think?
This comic, it's the Colton and Carl. This comic sucks. It is bad. It is terrible, these 2 issues. Starting with 24, I got so angry when I read this. Because this is not Ben Reilly. It's like, some people on the internet are calling him Ben 27 because he's the 27th clone. And that's what he is. He's not Ben Reilly. He's Ben 27. All this stuff. I mean, Jackal, I'm the original. He's not. Like, somewhere in some evil secret lab somewhere, the real Miles Warren, if there even is a real Miles Warren, because there's so many goddamn clones of him so much. Who's known? The original one probably did die in the 70s. And these are all just clones that think they're the real who think they're the real Jackal. You know what I mean?
I would venture to guess that we've never actually seen the real Miles Warren at any point.
Not even before he went insane back in the original Stan Lee run?
Okay, just like...
Everything post the Clone Saga?
I would say we've not seen the real Miles Warren since the 70s.
Since Quinn died?
Probably.
That a safe bet?
Yeah, that's a safe bet.
I mean... So, in one point, it's like, I'm mad that Ben killed somebody, because it's like, that's the thing that Ben would never even do. He got to the point that he would, like, be to that breaking point, but he would always go, no, Peter doesn't kill. Nothing says I don't have to kill. I'm just his clone. And then he'll just immediately power responsibility say, no, I'm not going to kill. You know what I mean? Like, he couldn't even commit suicide in the lost years, and that was his goal in that whole run. Because he doesn't want to take any life, including his own. And then here he is, just walks out of a burning fucking house, smiling and laughing. And then goes, anybody else in there? Just a noisy one. And then he beats the shit out of these cops. Who the fuck is this guy?
And James, this is a question that I want to discuss with you. Because this character has just attempted, like, he almost took out the entire human race. He's acting like a complete nut job. As per, he tried to take out the entire human race, so he's acting like a complete nut job, clearly. He goes and he kills these people. He manipulates this woman in a psychotic way. Can this character be redeemed ever? Assuming this is Ben Reilly.
If they go on and say that this is 100% the real Ben Reilly that you read going back to issue 150, then no, there's no way back. But like I said, there's always that door out, because they can always say that 1 minute, and the next creative team comes in and they can say, no, it's gone.
Because you can't redeem this character.
Look, somebody posted this, and I want to give him credit on CBR. It's Superior Iron Man, all one word. This is a list of shit that Ben has done with this arc. Tell me if this sounds like somebody who's redeemable to you. Use an Egyptian theme. Okay, I don't really think that counts, but he's like saying the insanity, case that people are saying that he's not guilty in reason of insanity kind of thing. He used an Egyptian theme, resorted to emotional blackmail, murder, attempted murder, grave robbing, forcing people to work for him against their will for pills, so again, the blackmail thing, reviving known felonies with the death penalty, including massacre, reviving terrorists, releasing inmates from prison, willing to resort to murder his brothers over disagreements, resorting to genocide for no reason, identity theft, even more emotional blackmail going in with his, clone conspiracy thing, Omega. Conspiracy, guilty of conspiring, arson, which I guess kind of you could say because he tore down the building, to kill him, murder. You know what I mean, though? It's like these are a list of guys that's not redeemable.
My God, it's just. Any other thoughts, James? And do you give this whole section a thumbs up, thumbs sideways, or thumbs down?
It's just bullshit because it does. Granted, it's the same thing we knew it was going to do. None of these people who we saw, dead, were going to be dead. It basically said, see, Ock got out. See, Ben got out. See, Miles got out, but then Ben killed him. But it's just going to be retconned later on. It was another clone. So there was literally on the whole evil side, there was no consequences whatsoever for their rash actions. Buy Ben's book. I'm going to give it a chance because it's Peter David, but this hole is so big, I don't know how he's going to dig out of this.
And here's the thing. This is basically his zero issue, and all he did was dig himself further into it.
But he had nowhere else to go. There is no high ground that he can crawl back to. Because he's literally was left with, well, Ben's nuts and running around. He needs money. So I guess I got to explain that he did this because this is the way the character is acting now. And that's what it felt like. Well, I got to do this because this is the way he's acting now. And I can have him be redeemed later. Because that's what it felt like. It's going to take I'm going to give it a chance, but I don't see how this is going to work out. It's just, let's do the 90s Clone Saga Lost Years all over again, but let's make Ben a dick.
So, James, I take it you give it a thumbs down?
Yeah, this whole thing is a thumbs down. I mean, I could go on and on and on about how much I just do not like the way they treated one of my favorite Spider-Man characters. And it's so weird because, it's everybody said, it's Slott doing it again. It's not one of his pet characters. It's not Anna Maria. It's not Silk. It's not, anybody else he introduced. But look at Ben Reilly, who had a lot of fans, got fucked over. Fans of other media versions of Spider-Man, like the 60s show and Amazing Friends and the 90s cartoon, they got fucked over.
Black Cat
got Ben Reilly is neck and neck with the biggest fuck yous from him. It's so weird. He's taking these beloved characters. He's like, well, they're not my people, so I'm just going to ruin it. It's like, again, I'm going to a wrestling show, next month. I mean, not next month, this Sunday. And there's a thing that Vince McMahon is very famous for, which is when he got wrestlers from other promotions. Like, there's a few, people like that have become stars in his company or from other companies. Like, look at AJ Styles right now. But then there's other people like The Club and Goldberg's original run and Sting and Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan when he came back and Booker T and Diamond Dallas Page was turned into a psycho stalker of The Undertaker's wife. He takes these people who were stars in other companies, and because they weren't his stars, they weren't his pet characters, they weren't the guys he made, Vince didn't know how to use them, so he just made them jokes next to the guys he did make. And this is what this feels like. Dan did not write Ben Reilly, and he was probably one of those 90s people who hated the Clone Saga, so he's taking it on to Ben. He probably wasn't a fan of the Black Cat in the 80s, so he's taking it out on her character development now. He's taking it out on Kane. He's taking it out on, like the 90s cartoon. The guy who probably grew up with the 60s cartoon wiped out every other cartoon Spider-Man dead in Spider-Verse. You know what I mean? It really feels like if you're not his pet characters, fuck you. And so I'm glad that the whole supporting cast is going. Mary Jane. Anytime she shows up, she's been turned into a bitch in his book because I can't write her with Peter, so she's a bitch. It's like, so I'm glad that Spectacular is taking the classic supporting cast because I don't trust what he's going to do with Betty Brant. You know what I mean? It's the one I don't trust Betty. I don't trust him with Harry. I don't trust him with Flash. Eddie's going to be Venom again. I don't trust him with that. You know what I mean?
Moving into my thoughts very quickly, because here's the thing. I'm not the Ben Reilly fan. I don't feel as passionately about this as James does or other Ben Reilly fans. I give it a thumb sideways because here's the thing. It's like, I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it. It's like, I understand why everyone's pissed about this. Because
it's Black Cat all over again.
Yeah, it's like, Black Cat is a character that I care about. So it's like, I obviously have more things to say about that. But I don't care about Ben Reilly. I've been open about this. I don't like the Clone Saga. I don't care about Ben Reilly. But I understand why everyone's pissed about it. So I give it a thumb sideways. The only thing of note to me in these issues was them trying to convince me that the Jackal was dead, which, no, it's like, are you kidding me? Are you seriously insulting my intelligence that much? Just stop.
It's like you had Ben kill somebody, but also it's going to be revealed it's another clone. So does it count as him technically killing people? Yes, he killed the clone.
So I give it a thumb sideways, but James, I just want to do like this final, because this is our Clone Conspiracy wrap-up show. Like, that's what it is. And so I just want to get final Clone Conspiracy, just general thoughts. I think I know what yours are going to be, but it's just like, and you've already been articulating it like throughout the show, but like,
I'll be honest. I'll be honest right now, John. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I think I know where you're going to go. I haven't hated a comic book storyline this bad since One More Day.
Oh crap!
Because it's personal. Just like I took personally the Peter and MJ relationship, Ben Reilly is up there with them. You fucked him over. You know what I mean? It's not him. It's not him. It's clone number 27 of him. But it's like his name is being dragged through the mud now. It's like you're insulting the real character by this imposter. By this clone of a 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 clone. I just do not. This storyline was bad. It's like literally. It almost feels like Dan Slott took a dare. Like, I bet you can't make a worse version of the Clone Saga. Oh, you'll be surprised. That's what it felt like.
I'll be honest. Like, Clone Conspiracy for me, if I had to give it a letter grade or something, I'd probably say like C+, B-. Because here's the thing, that's the thing about me is I am not attached to the Clone Saga or to Ben Reilly in ways that James or a lot of other people are. And so when I see Ben Reilly portrayed like this, it doesn't bother me as much. I understand why it bothers other people.
Like, I understand why people who are fans of... I can interrupt you for a second, I'm sorry. But I understand fans who read in the 80s Black Cat and how angry they got about how she was treated a few years ago by Dan Slott. I get it now 100%. You know what I mean? Like, where I could feel sympathy and I understand it, now I'm in that boat because the same thing happened to Ben.
And so it's like, I do not feel as passionately about Ben Reilly and how he was portrayed. I thought that there was some good material in Clone Conspiracy, and I did generally have fun with it. I thought it was a decently entertaining story. Some of my favorite parts, just listing them off, that tie-in issue with Peter and Gwen talking, I really liked that. I really enjoyed that. James is rolling his eyes at. He's throwing so much shade at me right now, James. I can feel it.
It's not shade at you. It's shade at Dan Slott.
But yeah, I'll admit I liked that issue. I liked the Kingpin moments. I did like that. I'll admit there were problems. Spider-Gwen did not need to be in this arc, and I still don't understand why she was there.
I forget that she's there.
Yeah, it's like, I honestly forget that she's there. Like, even during the recaps, it's like...
I almost got a sense that Dan Slott was trying to tease a relationship between them two, and then somebody told him, Bendis did it. What? Bendis is doing it right now with her and Miles. But Miles is like 12. Yeah, but she's like 18, so I guess it's close enough. Oh, that's kind of creepy, but okay. Because it almost feels like he was kind of wanting to tease a relationship with her and Kane, but he didn't go that far.
But like, that Spider-Gwen was one of the flaws of this story, obviously. And something I also didn't mention, moving back to the pros for a second, is I thought the artwork was pretty good throughout the series. I forgot to mention that completely in my reviews tonight, but yeah, I thought the artwork was pretty good. And there was some genuinely good stuff in here. Like, I liked the idea of Ben Reilly kind of fulfilling Spider-Man's vow from Big Time of no one dies, and Ben's like, I've wiped your slate clean. I've made your wish come true. No one dies. I thought that was a kind of a clever bringing it back. And so, oh man, I can't even handle the amount of shade James is throwing right now. But
No, it's not you. It's just I remembered. Remember how he was all about, I can cut Spider-Man one hell of a deal, and Peter pretty much says no deal? And what's the last word, what's the last fucking dialogue you get out of Clone Conspiracy? Peter telling Kingpin, deal.
But I'll admit, I had fun with Clone Conspiracy. I did have fun with it. I know I was critical of it at times, and you know I do acknowledge that. But overall, I don't think it was terrible. I was not as turned off by it as James was. I'll admit that. For example, like to go back to previous epic rants that I've done on the podcast. Remember that Scorpio Rising issue where I literally just complained about it for an hour and a half?
I want that issue back.
Oh no! See, I never want that issue back. I literally complained about that for an hour and a half. We went off on that for like 2 hours.
John, this would be like if somebody did something completely out of character, like a character assassinating one of your favorite characters, like Captain America, like made him a Hydra agent or something like that. Oh wait.
Well, this is like, here's the thing, like, I would probably feel this way if someone took. I'm trying to think of a, like I'm trying to think, if someone turned Captain Stacy into a mustache twirling supervillain, I would not appreciate that, because Captain Stacy is one of my favorite Spider-Man supporting characters. So like I'm not saying that like I don't agree with what James is saying. I do. I understand where he's coming from with his dislike for how Ben Reilly's portrayed, and he has every right to feel that way. And he's probably, and there, you know, I definitely agree with everything he's saying. It's just I don't feel as passionately about it. So overall, like, James is very negative towards Clone Conspiracy. I'm like, yeah, it was fun. It wasn't great. I'm not gonna go out on a limb and say, oh, it was the best Spider-Man story ever. It wasn't. No way in hell was it. But I thought it was decent. But that is gonna conclude our like Clone Conspiracy wrap-up show. James, any other like final unspoken thoughts that we've forgotten about? I think we've said pretty much everything there is to say about Clone Conspiracy.
Like I said before, like anybody who is, you know, ever disliked the original Clone Saga in the 90s, I understand your pain now.
All right, but
this is my equivalent of the Clone Saga in the 90s.
That's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. We don't really have anything else to talk about. So, James, final shout-outs or words for the listeners before we sign off?
Shout out WWE Fastlane Sunday on pay-per-view. I'm going to be there. Awesome. If you're in the Milwaukee area and you're watching the show, you're going to be there too. Tell me hi. Probably not, because, you know, we're not that popular with a YouTube show. But still, there's that one person. Come say hi.
All right. My shout-outs this week, Marvel Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, everyone working on Spider-Man. Thank you for Spider-Man. What else? I knew I had something in my head before this show.
Thank you, Dan Slott, for butt raping Ben Reilly.
No, that wasn't what I was gonna say. I had something in my head before this show, and I completely forgot what it was. Screw it. I'm not even gonna try. I'm too tired. It's like 11:30. But thank you everyone who tuned in for this episode. We apologize that we were not. We apologize, but sometimes real life gets in the way, and this kind of stuff has to take a back seat. But thank you for everyone who tuned in for this episode. We'll be back next week for a classic issue, for a classic story arc. I mean, 2 weeks from now is ASM 25, which is the beginning of the Norman Osborn arc.
Do you want to talk about how it's $11?
Wait, what?
It's $10.99.
What does this dude think, that I'm rich? I don't have $10.99.
Or it's $9.99, something like that. I don't know. It's around the $10 mark.
Jesus Christ!
It's 80 pages with like a bajillion variant covers, all of them featuring Peter and Mary Jane, which means Peter and Mary Jane are probably not going to be in the book together because Dan Slott.
Jesus. Oh. Okay, but Yeah, that's gonna do it.
Did you seriously just now find out that 25 is going to be like $10?
I didn't know that, James. This is live on the air. I did not know this.
Man, I can just imagine your reaction when you go to the comic store. You just grab it off the shelf. You just put your other stuff in your pull list on the shelf. You go up there and you look at it. Okay, that'll be $50. $50.
Yeah, I honestly would have looked at the guy and said, "Are you kidding me?" Yeah,
Amazing Spider-Man's $9.99.
I would have said, "God damn it! I'll be back in 30 minutes. I got to go to the bank." I don't have that. I don't carry that much money on me. All right. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. So thank you for everyone who tuned into this episode. We'll be back next week with a classic story arc. We don't know what yet, but hopefully it will be something that James doesn't hate. Okay.
Well, being that Spectacular's coming back, maybe we could pick something like Spectacular.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see if there's any way possibility we can probably do that, but if not, we'll just say fuck it.
So thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Good night, all.